Waffen SS who joined the Foreign Legion. In the aftermath of the Second World War, France was in shambles, having been occupied by the Germans for most of the war. Even though the fighting in Europe was over, France's overseas colony of Indochina was in revolt, and the ravaged nation desperately needed soldiers to stamp out the rebellion. Exhausted after years of war and occupation, they were forced to tap into a new pool of manpower, which came from an unlikely source. The SS, or Schutzstaffel, has its origins in the 1920s as Hitler's bodyguard and security for the Nazi Party. The organization grew in size and was split into separate branches, one of which was the Waffen SS, which amounted to the armed wing of the Nazi Party, becoming a paramilitary organization which fought alongside the Wehrmacht. During the conflict, they committed countless atrocities as part of the Nazis' racial agenda, especially on the Eastern Front. After the war, members of the Waffen SS became wanted criminals, and many fled abroad to avoid punishment for their actions. These fugitives were in need of a way to put aside their past lives and begin anew, and an opportunity presented itself, which would be mutually beneficial to both the fugitive SS and the desperate French. Since the 1800s, France has maintained a Foreign Legion, a military unit that was composed of non-French nationals, though French citizens can join if they wish. One of the hallmarks of the Legion is its openness to taking on recruits with debatable backgrounds. Historically, the ranks have been filled with criminals, vagabonds, and other outcasts from society that are looking for a fresh start. Today, standards are somewhat more strict, with criminals wanted by Interpol as well as hardened criminals such as murderers and drug traffickers not being accepted, though they will turn a blind eye to other lesser crimes. In fact, having a petty criminal record is highly favored, since the recruit is more likely to want to leave his past life behind, making them more devoted to the Legion. The only other restrictions are the age, mental capacity, and physical fitness of the recruits. Any man between 17 and 40 years old, in good mental and physical health, from anywhere in the world, regardless of ethnicity, religion, political affiliation, status or wealth, education level, or any other factor, can and have been accepted. No further questions asked. Those looking to start afresh get the opportunity to do so by serving in the Legion. In fact, anonymity is a requirement, with new recruits being forced to enlist under an assumed name called an anonyma, only being allowed to use their real names if they so choose after a certain length of service. This system is perfect for those who want to leave behind past transgressions or avoid prosecution for their crimes. Now, boots off the ground for a second and look to the sky. If you're a fan of intense aerial combat, historical battles, or just love a good challenge, we've got something you'll want to check out. Wings of Heroes is a World War II themed game that throws you right into the heat of epic 5v5 dogfights. Whether you prefer agile fighters or massive bombers, this game has something for every pilot. The variety of game modes makes it even more exciting. You've got Domination, where you capture control points, Dogfight for pure team-based chaos, and if you really want to test your skills, try the Ace mode. It turns off the auto-aim for a true flight sim experience. One of the things we love about Wings of Heroes is the customization. You can fine-tune your planes with upgraded engines, armor, and weapons, creating your own unique warbird for the battlefield. Plus, they're constantly releasing new planes and updates, keeping the game fresh and engaging for the long run. So what are you waiting for? Claim your spot in the sky and download Wings of Heroes today for free by clicking the link below or by scanning the QR code on screen now. You can also use our unique code Simple History for a free skin on a starter plane. It's perfect for those jumping into the cockpit for the first time. Germans have always had a major presence in the French Foreign Legion. Just before the outbreak of World War II, it was estimated that around 80% of the Legion's NCOs were of German origin. After the war, conditions were right for a large influx of German recruits. The nation was occupied by hostile powers, and many former soldiers fled potential retribution by joining up with their former adversaries, taking advantage of required anonymity. In fact, so many enlisted that according to a New York article from May 1947, Legion, up to 80% of a 5,000-man unit sent to French Indochina were Germans, mostly recruited from POWs. These men were described as being in their mid-20s and whose only profession was war, making them, in the words of the article, true mercenaries. For members of the Waffen SS, this was a way for them to avoid being placed on trial for their crimes. Even with the Legion's policy of anonymity, however, there are limits to what they'll turn a blind eye to. Due to the atrocities they committed, the SS members would not admit to their previous association with the organization, but portrayed themselves simply as normal German soldiers, hoping to slip by the screening process. There was one major complication with this. Members of the Waffen SS were often tattooed with their blood type, which was printed with small letters on the underside of the left arm near the armpit. This was done to ensure the proper blood type was given for a transfusion, should the dog tags go missing. After the war, having a tattoo in this area was often seen as proof that the man was a member of the SS and treated accordingly by the Allied forces. This wasn't a perfect system, as not all SS members were tattooed, and many regular German Wehrmacht soldiers did have a blood group tattoo, especially those who had been treated at SS hospitals. To avoid detection, SS members would painfully remove the tattoo, destroying the evidence of their past associations. Still, wary French Foreign Legion recruitment teams were on the lookout for candidates who had the blood tattoo, or those who had suspicious scars where a tattoo would normally be found. In spite of this, many Waffen SS members managed to slip by the screening process and join the Legion, evading detection, particularly in the years right after the war, though eventually the French authorities would crack down on the recruitment process with more efficiency as time went on. After induction into the Foreign Legion, the Legionnaires would be sent to Indochina, what would later be called Vietnam, to quell the ever-growing insurgency there. The Legion's troops were a badly needed source of French manpower in an increasingly difficult situation. The Legion would play a pivotal role in the conflict, including the disastrous final siege at Dien Bien Phu in 1954, when the Viet Minh communist fighters overran the French garrison. So, does the claim that large numbers of SS members joining the Foreign Legion hold any weight? It's hard to say, but more than likely, no. Determining how many of the Legionnaires were former members of the SS is at best a daunting task. There is no doubt that large numbers of Germans ended up in Southeast Asia, with some estimates placing the total number between 35,000 and 50,000 during the 8-year-long French military operation against the Viet Minh. The challenge is determining whether these men were SS members on the run, former members of the Wehrmacht who were looking for a fresh start, or simply young German men who saw service in the French Foreign Legion as a better alternative to living in post-war Germany. Over the years, claims about the number of war criminals in the Foreign Legion's ranks have swelled in scope, with many believing that there were thousands of SS members serving. There are two main sources for this belief, one being a book, The Devil's Guard, published in 1971, which details the life of an SS officer who fought on the Eastern Front, then joined the Foreign Legion. It describes an entire battalion of former Nazi soldiers conducting a guerrilla campaign against the Viet Minh. The work presents itself as an authentic memoir, but the historical validity can generously be described as lacking, with little actual evidence to support the claims made, and today it's considered a work of fiction. Compounding this were the Viet Minh themselves, who, after capturing thousands of French troops at Dien Bien Phu, claimed that there were large numbers of Waffen SS in their ranks. They never produced any evidence to back up these claims, and it is possible that they considered all Germans to be fleeing war criminals, or at least described them as such. Regardless of reasoning, there is little, if any, evidence to support the claim that thousands of SS members had joined the Foreign Legion and fought in Indochina. To summarize, it's known that after the war, a large influx of German recruits flooded into the Legion. However, the French authorities were specifically on the lookout for SS members who would be rejected and apprehended. The Legion's policy on anonymity meant that should the fugitives somehow pass the initial screening, their identity and former allegiances would be next to impossible to track with any accuracy. Add to this the unreliable reports by the Viet Minh and the later sensationalized accounts claiming to be factual information, there is nothing but muddy water on an already unclear subject. Claims of thousands of SS members who joined the Legion to avoid prosecution for their crimes is most likely highly exaggerated, and while no doubt a few did escape justice in this manner, the number is likely very small, though the truth has been lost to history. Don't forget to join the action and download Wings of Heroes today for free using the link below or by scanning the QR code on screen now. Also, redeem our unique gift code Simple History to unlock an exclusive skin for your starter plane, available for new users only.